you doing? This is Black Shy Guy here. Welcome once again to another podcast episode. As always, I thank you for sitting at my table. If you're in that wintry mix in the New York State, tri-state area, that was a double state inputted right there. Hopefully you guys are staying safe. It's been really crazy. This week has been ludicrous with the pounding of Mother Nature with all that damn snow. As you know, I probably snow plowed 60 inches already. I'm serious. I'm serious. In just one spot, my house, period. In my crib, I probably snowplowed 60 inches. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We're going to get right into it with our story of today that deals with, obviously, MMA, with a story that's causing a high buzz all around the internet, and a lot of freaking men who are so-called men freaking losing their panties over what has been said by Sean Stickland, who slayed a Canadian reporter with simple logic that a lot of people will take as misogyny and what a lot of people will take as racism and hatred toward the trans community, when it's just simply put that men of today has grown weak. And that is my opinion as well. That is my opinion as well. Listen, today's episode is going to be quite touchy to some people, maybe to all people. But listen, we keep it gully here in Chi-Town. Like I always say, man, we keep it gully here in Chi-Town. So if you're welcome to this discussion, come in, grab a seat, make sure you grab your drink. Let's get right into it as Sean Stickland starts the conversation with this reporter who, to me, has been slain.
You ask me some stupid shit like that, go fuck yourself. Move the fuck on, man.
I feel like that doesn't really answer the question, but I did want to ask also things you said about the trans community. You said this past October when they announced the Bud Light sponsorship that you'd go so hard on Bud Light in your next fight, they'll have to accept me or denounce me when they know what, and will know what they stand for. Are you
this guy's like, hey, this Canadian's not that Canadian.
Are you still going to use your fight time to kind of speak on that?
Here's the thing about Bud Light.
Bud Light, who accepted a trans individual as the leading representation to their brand. That's who Bud Light is. Let's continue.
Here's the thing about Bud Light.
Let me add, instead of picking a real woman, they chose a trans individual to lead their brand. I'm just saying, this is how much real ladies are being excluded from anything. For the simple fact that a lot of people are going with a trans individual instead of a real woman. You can't make this shit up. Let's continue.
10 years ago, to be trans was a mental fucking illness. And now all of a sudden, people like you have fucking weaseled your way into the world. You are an infection. You are the definition of weakness. Everything that is wrong with the world is because of fucking you. And
I'm not going to lie, I 100% agree with Sean Stickland's statement right there. Because men are not like the men of yesterday. They're not. They're weak. They're decadent. They're willing to accept anything as long as they're freaking accepted by the mob. That's all they want, is acceptance by the mob. So they're willing to agree with anything that the mob agrees with. And when you go against that, you're an enemy. You're an enemy of the state. You're an enemy of the world. You're an enemy of the internet. And they want you banned. It's simple as that. Men like that reporter right there are the definition of weakness. Those are men you do not want in the front line in a war. Those are the men you don't want on the front line. Let's continue.
the best thing is the world's not buying it. The world's not buying your fucking bullshit you're fucking peddling. The world is not saying, you know what? You're right. Fucking chicks have dicks. The world's not saying that. The world's saying, no, there are two genders. I don't want my kids being taught about, you know, who they could fuck in school. I don't want my kids being taught about, you know, their sexual preference. Like, dude, this guy is the fucking enemy. You want to look at the fucking enemy to our world? It's that motherfucker right there.
And I 100% once again agree with Sean Stickland. I don't see how you can combat that. I don't see how you could combat that. unless you're the opposition. If you agree with what the report is saying, it's basically saying that you agree with kids being taught sexual relations in school, who they can love, how they can dress, that they're willing to be accepted if they're willing to be called the opposite sex, even though if they're a man and they want to be a woman. Yes, you're a woman, kid. You're a woman. Men like that are the disease. I have to say he speaks the truth. There is no reason whatsoever a kid should be taught anything sexual in school. Anything. And the fact that men like that are willing to accept that there's 5 genders in the world now, that's another reason that man is weak. The fact that that man is willing to accept that women no longer are the second genders of this world, but instead transgender individuals are being considered way more important than real live ladies in the world, is a reason why that man is weak. For women to be excluded entirely for transgenders is wrong. I don't see how people do not see this. Ladies of today are not being protected anymore. For example, they are allowing transgenders to enter ladies' sports and to dominate them, removing any opportunity, any chances real women of today's sports to win anything now. Why? Because there are men representing themselves as women and taking over a woman's sport. And people like that reporter are agreeing to that. People like that reporter accept it. People like that reporter have no problem with it. Weak. I tell you, weak. Let's continue.
Asking these stupid fucking questions. Sorry, I told the UFC I was being nicer. Lance, am I still good with this? Did I cross any lines? A little. What the fuck? I didn't say the F word. You just brought this fucking guy in here to piss me off.
You just did, but just to follow up, I mean, Rick.
Did I say it?
You just did.
No, I didn't say it.
Right there, you did.
Different F word. Yeah. I'm trying to be good, man. I'm trying to be good. I like the fucking gays. Here's the thing. I've never. You guys think I've ever shit on a gay man or shit on a gay woman? I like the gays. It's fucking freedom. We still have it in America. We'll teach you about it. You guys don't have fucking freedom of speech. I'm surprised what I'm saying is probably gonna get fucking. I'm probably gonna get the fucking Canadian government to arrest me.
What he's saying there is Canada has no type of freedom. As we speak, as of now, they have no freedom. They have no freedom of speech. You go against whatever that reporter is saying in Canada, you are going to be an enemy of that country. That country right now with Justin as the lead is a country I do not want to step foot in. It's a joke over there. A joke of a government over there. Let's continue.
So I don't give a fuck who you fuck. I don't give a fuck what you want to do in life. But don't fucking tell kids about it. Don't teach that shit in fucking school. Don't fucking push your agenda. Don't try to fucking brainwash people. Don't try to go past parents. Don't try to go past all this shit and brainwash people, you fucking cuck.
Exactly.
Welcome back to the comment section.
I apologize for that. Exactly. That was Brett Cooper, by the way. Exactly. You do not brainwash kids and try to teach them about situations that they should be learning when they're almost adults. You're telling kids about who they should love? Are you kidding me? And that reporter is okay with that? Now, we're going to go on to someone else who had a problem with Sean Stickland's statement. And it's called the Dan Libertard Show. And I must tell you, listen, prepare yourselves. Because I would never want to be in a room with these so-called men who I don't believe are men whatsoever. I would never want to be a cameraman who's associated with this show, because I would have been throwing up in my mouth by what they're about to say. These are men who are okay with kids being taught shit in school that they should not be taught. These are men who are okay with women in sport being dominated by transgenders. These are men who are okay with their sons coming up to them and saying, hey, daddy, I want to wear a pink dress now. These are men who are okay with all of that bullshit. Prepare yourselves, gentlemen. Prepare yourselves, because you're about to see someone who you should not be like, okay? You should not be like these so-called men, okay? Let's prepare ourselves as we witness modern men of today at its finest.
In the UFC, and this sport, and I've said this before, this sport is the gutter. It is a very bad, ugly business, and it is now being run by a person in Dana White who allows all of this to go on and takes the lane of profiting, of allowing his champion to speak this way in a press conference where he's wearing a shirt. I believe the shirt says women in the kitchen.
Okay, Mike Ryan. Okay, Mike Ryan. So Dana White is a bad boss who allows free speech. Basically, we're in a country that allows you free speech. You're not allowed to say something like that, right? It's forbidden. It is forbidden for a man to have free speech, despite the fact that he's in a entertainment sport that is televised around the world. So it's okay for a man to be a puppet and say what the media wants him to say, but it's not okay for a man to go against the mob or against the puppeteer show that you obviously are representing, right? It's not okay when it's like that, right? You're a joke, Mike, a joke.
And guns in every hand, I believe, is the shirt that he is wearing. And then listen to how he.
So what's wrong with a gun in every hand? It's for the government not to take over. It's for the government not to basically overwhelm us. If you know the story behind the Second Amendment. Let's continue.
He responds. This is a champion, Stugotz. This is a face of your sport. The sport does not have that many stars at the moment, and this guy is one of your champions. And I simply cannot imagine in football, in baseball, in basketball. I mean, hockey has an undercurrent of some of this, but it's not like this. I cannot imagine a modern athlete champion in a sport that people are covering like it's a real sport, talking like this without a reaction from the public and a backlash.
We've got a pretty.
Aww. So, Mike, I mean, the fact that you're so offended by what was said by Sean Strickland. I question your manhood. I do. I do. And you're entitled to your own opinion. Listen, you're entitled to your own opinion. But the problem I have with you is the fact that you are upset about a man who has the right to free speech, the right to his opinion. I know you got your panties in a bunch. I know you do. Along with all those other men in the studio who you probably got locked down. You probably got them locked down. If they say something that goes against whatever you're saying, you'll probably fire them on the spot. You're probably firing them on the spot. But you're so against free speech that is hurting your feelings right now. God forbid there's a boss who's in charge of a sport who allows his athletes to express themselves. God forbid. Let's continue.
But in that audience, Stugotz, that's being trafficked in. Now, I'm not saying it's true of everyone in that audience, but the leader in that sport allows that. The leader in that sport prides himself on everyone can say what they want. There will be no punishments here. And if there are no punishments here, as there would be anywhere else in legitimized sports, then without consequences, you're just allowing the precedent of that continuing. And my guess is, Tony, you can speak to this. My guess is that Dana White will only be upset that he went near the Bud Light stuff, that's the only place that he'll.
Because it's called a business. He's a boss. Bud Light, him being associated all of a sudden with Bud Light brings him money. Do I have a problem with that a little bit? Yes, I do personally. I'm not going to be biased towards Dana White or the UFC. If I smell bullshit, I'm going to call it. Do I have a problem with him being associated with Bud Light, who basically supports not necessarily transgender. I don't have a problem with them supporting transgender individuals. I have a problem with them choosing a transgender woman instead of giving an opportunity to a real woman to represent their brand. Women of today are being excluded from everything. Because they're choosing transgender ladies instead of a real woman these days. That's the problem I have with what's going on with society today. But you're okay with that, Mike. You're okay with that. And you're okay with athletes being held, silenced, and not being able to express their true opinions towards what's going on in today's world. You're okay with that. You're against free speech. You're against freedom of expression. Huh? You're against that. You are a true Canadian citizen who agrees with all of that bullshit. You are a true fan of Justin Trudeau. That's who you are, Mike. Let's continue.
He'll get bothered.
Yeah, Sean Strickland has been using language like this for a long time. It's just he's always kind of been the guy who's 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th ranked, so you don't really hear from him. All of a sudden, his ascension into superstardom with busy beating Israel Adesanya has put him in the limelight where a lot of his words now are getting shown to people across multiple social medias. Like, Sean is the guy that speaks whatever is on his mind, as you can see. Like, this is some of the lighter stuff, by the way. If you actually
That's
know
the
Sean,
lighter stuff?
Yes,
that's one of the worst sound clips
Jesus
we've ever
Christ.
played
Yes,
on this
like,
show.
In a press conference with Dricus du Plessis, who he's fighting.
God forbid. God forbid. I mean, are you hearing this? These are men. I know you guys are confused. I know you guys are like, wait a minute. I think this is a room full of ladies. No, this is not a room full of ladies, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a room full of ladies. These are men in a room complaining about a man who has the right to free speech and who has the right to freedom of expression. These are men complaining about it in a room. I'm not lying to you. You may think I'm lying, but these are not a room full of ladies. These are men. I'm not lying to you. I'm being honest with you. I would not bullshit you. Let's continue.
This Saturday, which is basically the only fight on the card that matters, Dan. I think that's an important distinction here because nobody else on that card is really going to buy pay-per-views. People are not going to want to see them. This back and forth between Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland is why you're buying this fight. So when you have Sean Strickland going up there and talking, yeah, they're going to kind of give him carte blanche because they need to sell this fight.
Why do we do this? Why we do this with Colby Covington? This is really like also the only way we approach mixed martial arts, and it's not that interesting of a topic to me. It's like, how does Dana White allow this? We know where Dana White's politics reside. He's spoken articulately, honestly, on why he allows this stuff. The fact that we played that clip, which I agree, Chris, that's as hateful a clip as I've heard on this show. And I was aware of it, and I saw quotes of it.
Hateful clip. That's the most hateful clip they have ever heard on the show. I 100% disagree with that. But let's take into consideration that we're in a room full of sensitive men. Let's take into consideration that we're in a room with men who hate free speech, who hate freedom of expression. Let's take into consideration that we're in a room with men who are okay with real women's being excluded from everything. Let's take into consideration that we're in a room with men who are okay with kids being taught a lot of bullshit in school that they should not be taught. Let's take into consideration that we are in a room full of men who are highly sensitive. Which questions? Are they men? Let's continue.
Of it. I wasn't prepared for how I would feel after seeing 2 minutes of it. Fuck that guy. Fuck him. He's a stupid motherfucker who is hateful. And the fact that he's not suspended, where he'd be suspended in any other sport, hell, forget sport. In most companies, that shit would at the very least get you suspended.
Jesus. A lot of people are calling me liars right now. I'm telling you, I'm serious. This is a room full of men, okay? I'm going to say it once again because I know I'm going to get a lot of messages saying, no, you were listening to a room full of ladies. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. Not even ladies complain like this. Not even ladies complain like this. But let's continue.
Indictment on that company. It's publicly traded, by the way. So Endeavor and TKO, you should answer for this in ways that he hasn't had to in other incarnations of this sport.
That's why you platform it, though, Mike. The people need to hear it. We're all in our silos. We're all speaking to our own people with our own set of facts. This stuff, it can't
I
just
don't need,
exist.
Dan, I will stop you right there. I don't need Sean Strickland to let me know that there's hate in this world. I open up Twitter for that. I don't. Mike, at a certain point, you got to say, fuck that guy.
And that's fine, but that's where the discourse is in this country right now. Where
You don't think that was saying fuck you to everybody else? That's not a discourse. That's pure hate.
Mike,
That's pure hate. He did say he had no problem with the transgender community. What he has a problem is what society is trying to represent to young children. What society is trying to represent, what society is basically trying to represent and what's accepted today. With transgender athletes taking over real women's sports, with kids being taught sexual activities, sexual types of living in school, with freedom of speech is taken away, where the Second Amendment is almost basically being taken away. That's what Sean Strickland is against. That's what he's basically saying. But you guys are in your feelings. You guys are not seeing that. You guys are in your feelings. You guys got your panties in a bunch. Not boxers. You guys got actual panties in a bunch.
you cannot tell me, as many people do, I don't want politics with my sports, and continually go to athletes and champions for their opinions on things. Listen to it from LeBron James, and people object to it there and tell him to shut up and dribble, and then simply ignore when something like this is happening. I think it needs to see the light. It needs to, beyond the platform there that he.
I do agree with that. I do agree with that. When reporters bring in political issues into a platform that nobody necessarily wants to hear about what's going on in the world, but they want to hear what's going on around in the sport. When reporters bring up political issues towards athletes and questions them about their opinions towards political issues, nobody wants that. Keep that away. There has to be some type of rule, at least, to keep political freaking questions out of sports. But at the same time, it kind of drives the sport, and it kind of drives the ticket sales when you think of it in a business standpoint. But nobody wants to hear an athlete's political opinion, especially when it doesn't side with their own opinion. Because if Sean Strickland said something else, if Sean Strickland said the opposite, that kids should be okay with being taught sexual things in school, that basically transgender athletes should be accepted in women's sports. These guys won't have a problem with that. These guys won't go against that at all. But the fact that he went against their political opinion, they have a problem with it. They're causing havoc in the kitchen. They got their panties in a bunch.
Is on where it's normalized and it's more acceptable because he's speaking to his audience.
And we are a guilty party, Dan, and we are a guilty party in allowing this conflation of hate and politics. That right there is not politics.
But Mike, it can't
it's
be
become politics.
No, Mike.
That is pure hatred.
Mike, what Dan is saying, it is hatred. It's disgusting. But what Dan is saying is you can't want politics and sports mixed up, but it only be your politics.
And I'm telling you.
Exactly. He's right. Okay, maybe a lot of men in this room are not freaking so sensitive, because you can't expect your own opinion when it comes to politics to be everyone's opinion and you okay with that. Sometimes there's going to be oppositions and you got to be okay with that as well. Not everybody is going to align with your opinion. You got to accept the fact that your opinion is not going to be embodied by every athlete who speaks their opinion. That's the problem Mike has. Everybody has to abide by his opinion. If you're against Mike's opinion when it comes to political issues, then you're an enemy of the state.
I'm telling you, it's not politics. Up until like 8 years ago, it wasn't politics. And we've allowed for it to be political. It is not. I know how he votes because we've given license to people to speak like this freely. And when I hear all their political beliefs encapsulated in that, it is not political in nature.
Mike, you say
it is hateful.
We've given license to speak this way freely. Not in sports we haven't. It's only in that sport. That it isn't across sports. You cannot speak that way. That's not, and furthermore,
that's because the boss of the UFC, God bless his heart, Dana White, allows free speech and freedom of expression. If a reporter chooses to ask an athlete a political question, and that athlete chooses to give his opinion towards it, because a lot of athletes wishes to say, I have no comment. But when an athlete is bold enough to express his opinion about a certain situation that reporter asked of him, you should be okay whether he abides by your opinion or not. It shouldn't be only my opinion matters if he gives it. Because once an athlete goes against the mob, it's a problem. When he goes with the mob, it's not a problem. But when he goes against the mob, oh, he's not allowed to give his opinion. It's a fucking joke.
I would say that a good deal of MMA audience applauds the idea that in their sport, he can speak his mind that way in a way that his audience doesn't necessarily disagree with, hateful or not. And so as a principle, because you've done this before with Colby Covington, yes, what Tony just said at the end of that break, it is part of how you sell fights in the gutter. Boxing has always trafficked in the race stuff, and this is the natural evolution of the sport that has replaced boxing. It is part of what is used for profit in that sport. But what is your solution? To ignore it? Because I'm telling you.
Yeah, because I ignore it in my everyday life. I ignore it.
You ignore it in your everyday life. Listen, I've had enough with Mike. I do. I've had enough with Mike. If you ignore it in your everyday life, then you shouldn't have a podcast then. Because when you have a podcast, you're not going to ignore it. It's going to be a storyline for you to talk about the next day in your show. It's impossible to ignore. You're contradicting yourself. You're contradicting the very career that you have chosen to take. You're a podcast show. You can't ignore it. You got to talk about it, because obviously a lot of fans is going to bring it to your attention. You're going to have to talk about it. You're going to have to express your opinion about it. But you got to be okay with the fact that someone is willing to express their opinions about the situation, despite the fact that it doesn't align with your own. You can be biased. There's nothing wrong with that. It's human nature to be biased, because you're aligned with a certain freaking opinion that, I don't know, keeps you leveled. But when somebody's against it, you can express your opinion about it. You can express your opinion about it. But you can't be okay with the fact that they should be shut down, that they should be tight-lipped about any opinion they got against what doesn't align with your own. Freedom of speech and freedom of expression should always be expressed and should always be allowed. I'm not saying everything that is hateful should be allowed, because I don't think that's hateful. If you really know what Sean Strickland was really trying to say, that's not hateful speech. He even expressed it in more detail. He hates the fact that kids are being taught sexual situations in school. It's not hateful. It's not a hateful speech he's saying there. That's him getting in more detail into what he doesn't align with and what he said about that reporter that he doesn't agree with. You got to look deeper into what Sean Strickland was saying, but you guys don't want to look deeper. You guys don't want to look deeper. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about this whole opinion about Sean Strickland's statement. Hopefully you guys don't take this into a into a point that, despite the fact that you may not agree with my opinion, I hope we keep it respectful. We can conversate. Listen, I don't stand above correction, but I do have my opinion about certain things that I would not change my opinion on. Let me know what you think. I really do appreciate you joining me. Thank you for sitting at my table. This is Black Shy Guy. I'm out of here. Peace.
Arch criminal who must be put away. Another innocent victim of homicidal maniac.